My name is Michelle Mays, and I am the co-founder of Champions for Philanthropy. We are so excited to present today's event in partnership with the Players Impact to hear from two incredible former professional athletes who will be sharing their experiences and off-the-court ventures. For those of you who are not familiar with our organization, we're a consulting agency that assists professional athletes with starting their nonprofit foundations, managing their existing foundations, and because having a nonprofit isn't right for every athlete, we also assist with creating various charitable projects and initiatives and connect our clients with other nonprofits and help develop a strategy for giving. And now I'll turn it over to our co-host, Tracy DeForge.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I'm very excited to be part of this, excited to hear from our athletes who are obviously more than athletes. The Players Impact is a venture platform for professional athletes, active, retired, and Olympic level, where we're making investing and entrepreneurship a team sport. Bringing vetted and curated investment opportunities, as well as helping our athlete founders grow their business endeavors and really empowering those athletes in business. So this is a perfect conversation for us to have. And we, as always, we enjoy partnering with Champions of Philanthropy for Philanthropy. So with that, I will throw it over to you, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Alicia Powell, co-founder of Champions for Philanthropy. Before we get started, I would like to tell you more about our incredible moderator for the evening, Sarah Kustok. Sarah, who was a D1 college basketball player at DePaul University, is a color commentator for the Brooklyn Nets and also appears on Fox Sports, where she serves as a sports analyst. She's the first female to win a New York Emmy in the sports analyst category and is going to do an amazing job tonight, as always. So I'll let you take it over, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia and Michelle and Tracy, and to all of you that are here joining us. We have an incredible conversation lined up with two impressive individuals, not only for what they've done on the court, but as you will find off the court as well. So I want to start by introducing Devean George, who is from Northern Minneapolis. Now, Devean George, as I'm sure many of you remember, a retired basketball player and currently a real estate professional. He played college basketball at Augsburg College, and he was the MVP of the conference for 2 consecutive years, the first ever NCAA Division III basketball player selected in the first round. He was 23rd overall by the Los Angeles Lakers, and you had an 11-year career, Devean, in the NBA, and played for the Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks, the Golden State Warriors, and I don't know if this is most importantly, but most importantly, probably many love to know, a 3-time NBA champion. But again, the accomplishments on the court pale in comparison to all that you've continued to do off the court. So Devean, thank you so much for being here and for joining us tonight. And then we have Maurice Mo Evans from Wichita State, another long veteran as a NBA player, 11 years in the league, played for 7 different teams. I'm sure many of you were fans during his stops, most notably also with the Los Angeles Lakers, Detroit Pistons, Atlanta Hawks, and Washington Wizards. Also, Mo served as the NBPA executive committee for 4 years. He was the vice president and a key contributor as the 2011 NBA lockout was getting figured out. So many details of that I'm sure he'll continue to explain to us how that helped him throughout the course of his post-playing career. Mo, I'm sure you can tell us more about this, but from what we know, passionate entrepreneur, you've invested in many startup companies in the sports technology space over the past decade, and just such a unique blend of who you are as an individual, a person, what you've learned on the court, and also your business acumen that has allowed you to serve in many C-suite roles within the startup world. Mo founded Every Level of Success, a disruptive company that leverages technology to offer comprehensive brand management solutions to athletes and influencers. So I know those were long introductions, and that was only small pieces of it for all of you listening, because you guys both have accomplished so much. So again, to Mo, to Devean, thank you so much for being here this evening. And I want to start with a question that's pretty simplistic. And Devean, I'll begin with you. And Mo, I'd love for you to answer this as well. But we talk so much here about philanthropy and giving back. How do you incorporate that give back philosophy into your business ventures?
Well, it goes hand in hand because, you know, once I became a professional athlete, all of my friends and people I played college ball with were either into social working, they were teachers, they were principals. And so they were always saying, can you come and talk to my kids? Can you come and say a few words? Can you come and do some mentoring? And then, so I would come in and I noticed that a lot of the kids were in bad condition. They were in bad shape. They were either missing from school at weeks at a time. And so there was no stable housing. So when I figured out, okay, well, I'm coming in saying, go to school, eat vegetables, and a lot of kids don't know where they're living or where their next meal is coming from. So really, how much was I having an impact on coming in, trying to mentor them? So that's when I kind of started my development, affordable housing development, where I can have some families that could have stable housing, and I can also house my nonprofit in these buildings. And so that's why I kind of coupled them together. The business and the nonprofit go hand in hand because my for-profit company has to be the financial backer for the nonprofit. As we all know, nonprofits are in a constant, trying to raise money. And so that's why they go hand in hand. So I couple them both together.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I had the same sentiments as Devean. I think they definitely go hand in hand. For me, over time, I've had to learn that, so many of our players, I know that mental health and wellness is a major challenge just around the country, but especially for professional athletes, because only less than 30% of us retire willingly. And so many of us, if we fall upon financial hardships, there isn't much to give. And few people I've realized have, empathy for those professional athletes who go broke because they see us make so much money during the short window of time that our career is. So I started early in my career with a foundation called Mentorship, realizing that because many of us are first generation wealth, the sustainability piece is essential. So, for us, we try hard, we're very intentional about making sure that we help the players to transition, and career transition is huge, into something that they're passionate about. So they don't have that one primary revenue stream, which is from whatever their respective sport is, but also to be able to monetize other skill sets that they have. Hence is why I partnered with TPI to begin with, is so that we can give players another opportunity to maximize their talents on another platform away from just the NBA, NFL, or whatever our respective sports are.
Yeah, it's so important to think about, because I think as athletes and probably as professional athletes, so much of your focus and emphasis is on who you are as a player and how to get yourself better, and all the time and sweat and effort you pour into that you don't always think about post-career. Devean and Mo, I want to dig into more of what you've started and some of these startups that you've invested in. But Devean, tell us a little bit about Building Blocks. How you started it, why you started it, what inspired you to start it, and what it is.
Well, it started really once I got drafted. So when I was drafted to the Lakers, we have a star-studded team. Obviously, Kobe, Shaq, everyone had commercials, and they were well-established players. And as you know, most of the time in NBA, NFL, there's mandatory community events that you have to get out into the community to go to do either Read to Achieve. You see guys handing out turkeys. They're going to housing, projects and whatnot. And so I was always that person that got pushed out. Hey, you do this. And then I started to develop a passion for that, helping kids, because I would go in and read a book for 30 minutes to a kid and it would just change their life. They would be so happy. They would be talking about it. The teachers would say, hey man, they're really listening to what you say. They think we're not human beings because we know how to play basketball. And I always, helped kids out in my neighborhood. Once I got to LA, I sponsored a program every year called Why Can't I Go? So 20 kids that were doing good in school, that did some community service. I would fly 20 kids and chaperones out to LA where they can see a game, they can go to Disneyland, they can just get out of the environment for being rewarded for being good students. And so all that stuff kind of led me, once I was finished playing, of saying, hey, let me start my nonprofit where I can really help kids. And then it just kind of snowballed and grew, because the easiest part was luring the kids in. Once they know who you are, they seen you on TV. That's the easy part. But then we work with them. That we have them believe in themselves. We have them getting good grades. But then it snowballed even more because they would have to go back home to unstable environments. So then that's when I really had to start partnering with other social services that could help them transition when they go home, so that we didn't have to start all over the next day and rebuild the kids back up when they go home to unstable environments. So that's kind of how I got started. And that's really the gist of what we do. We work with the kids, and then I partner and I give personally calls to people that work in social work. And hey, I have a mother that's pregnant. She has no health care and she's a single mom. We need some help. Can you come on site? Yes. Well, that helps my young guys when they come home and they have stable environments. So that's kind of how I started. And that's pretty much what we do.
Devin, we'll dig more into it. That's incredible. and I know we're going to get into more of just you both as athletes, just the platform that you have and the influence you have and the impact because of it to do good. Mo, what about, I know I had mentioned you founding Every Level of Success, but just when you began investing in startups, where your passion came from it, the motivation, and just kind of the things that you are currently interested in what it is that you've been working on.
Sure. I mean, for me, I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship ever since I went to Wichita State. And I ended up transferring to Texas, where they didn't have my major. So I ended up getting my degree in education, but it kind of became a blessing in disguise at the time, because not only I always had the passion for entrepreneurship, but then kind of honing a skill almost as a teacher. And most athletes were all pretty coachable for the most part. We're used to having coaches, mentors, et cetera. And so when I was able to combine that with my passion, which is the business and the model, Every Level of Success, kind of like can't remember the product, but where the guys like, not only am I the founder, but I'm also like a client. That's kind of how I fell into the Every Level of Success model. Is after, toward the end of my career, I realized that, I had accumulated a little bit of wealth, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to transition into. And because I was heavily involved in the Players Association, and I always, had a passion for the entrepreneurial side of the sports business, I thought for sure, oh yeah, you just be a GM, a coach, an analyst, or something. But unfortunately for me, those knocks, those jobs, those opportunities never came. And the one opportunity that I had, I found myself going through a divorce at the end of my career. And, that in and of itself was life changing for me, because then I had to make a decision, because my then wife was also pregnant with, my unborn child, my son, and we had already had a 2-year-old daughter. And so for me, having founded this company, Every Level of Success, there was many days that I feel so successful, but I realized that there were so many other players and professional athletes, especially, who had the same trajectory in terms of, we achieved great success in terms of our primary vertical in our career. But when we transitioned out, we had to reinvent ourselves. And then we had to see what else could we be successful in terms of, as husbands, as fathers, as entrepreneurs, businessmen, et cetera. And that's when I said, I need to really put my words and my actions into action, so to speak, to build a model that helps other players with career transition. And that's how we kind of founded the company, Every Level of Success.
It's fantastic. And I know that you both touch on this a little bit, Devin, you in particular. But if you can get into more specifically how your platform as an athlete helped to influence your ventures off the court and some of the things that you're doing.
Well,
to me or to Devin? I'm sorry.
We'll give you a breather,
no problem.
and have Devin answer, and then it's coming back to you, Mo. We're making you have to remember the questions.
No, you're good. We're good.
But you say that, and I mean this to both of you. Your give back to kids and your give back to youth and the next generation and to so many others. It seems even more significant because of the fact of the way that people look up to you, and whether it is young, whether it's kids, whether it's high school, college, and even after. You being athletes, we see you in a different light. And so I'm so impressed with how you've translated that into some of these ventures, but how specifically, and Devin, we'll start with you, have you been able to use that platform?
Well, I really was one of the people that, I was talking earlier, and I think probably my year 7, it was, so after I got drafted, I had a 3-year contract. And then after that was up, I was getting signed at 1201. So there was really no urgency. I had another 4 years. But then after year 7, I sat on the market from the end of the season all the way until August. Training camp is about to start up. And then that's kind of when I was like, ooh, this is, there's another life after this. I'm still young. What do I do next? And so that's when I kind of picked things up. And every year I did internships. I was meeting with people. I was taking advantage of the NBA. I was asking for meetings and getting into offices. And I was doing all of that and using me playing for the Lakers, of knowing people and people seeing me play before, to get meetings and to introduce and say, hey, is this something I want to be introduced to? I was on movie sets, seeing how that was working, if I wanted to get into investing in movies or try movies, and that was a no-go. But I jumped into everything just to see. And then obviously the real estate portion was really the most intriguing part to me. And that was really what I enjoyed doing. It gave me freedom. It allowed me to do what I can do. I was creative with it. And so it was just, that's really how I got into it, really, is using my platform. And then once I got going, I was able to get in a lot of doors, because we all have a brand where we're from. And that's why I started in Minneapolis, where I'm from. We have a big brand, not necessarily globally or nationwide, but where we're from, even our small towns or our small cities where we're from, when we play professional sports, we have a brand there. So I use that to kind of get me going, get me into City Hall, get me into some meetings and whatnot to meet. But I had to follow through. And that was one of the big things. A lot of people have this attitude about athletes of like, we don't take things serious. We're not businessmen. We don't know how. We're not intelligent. So I had to break a lot of those walls down, that we're different. All of us are individuals, and that we're not the same. So those are some of the things I took advantage of using my platform.
Yeah, Mo, what about for you? Just being an athlete and the platform that gave you, how were you able to translate that into so many of your other ventures off the court?
Sure. I mean, I think Dev said it really well, is that we all have a brand somewhere. And so for me, unfortunately, I mean, we took a similar trajectory in that he went to a mid-major in terms of, Division III, was able to have great success and obviously be that first player to be drafted in that position. For myself, I went to a mid-major, ended up transferring to another major university, but was projected top 15. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out in that way. And when I stepped out on faith, I didn't get drafted. And so being an undrafted free agent, and then there wasn't you being able to test the waters type of thing and go back to school. I literally had to go out and embark upon my career, but I was grateful and really blessed that I was able to extend that into a 11-year career. However, the penalty, I guess you could say, the consequences of going out undrafted is that I wasn't able to make the larger contracts because I was always fighting kind of independently for smaller contracts. And I would get the 3-year deal, but it wouldn't be a 20 million, 30 million on a contract. It'd be a 4 million, 7 million of that nature. So I wasn't able to make as many mistakes. So with that said, I had to be very, very intentional about how it was that I, spent each dollar, because I still had to elevate my family. When I talk about every level of success, I didn't feel very successful if I'm living in a 5,000 square foot home, but my parents are still living in an underserved community where I grew up and where I was raised with my sister and things of that nature. So now I found myself trying to elevate all the people around me, which was my entire family base. And then not to mention, when I realized that I was investing a lot of dollars into a lot of different companies, and essentially they were just using my money. They were paying, operating expenses and scaling their companies. But, I was just a passive investor with really minimal rights. And so I had to learn how to kind of, say, how can I best leverage the celebrity that I have, the liquidity that I have, and then also be able to create more sustainability. But again, I realized so many other players have the same challenge, is that they don't know how. No one's really truly teaching us how to be entrepreneurial when we do make the big contracts, how to best leverage that money and be most impactful. And therefore, I started to realize the companies that I had invested in, they formed what I call a ELOS 360 service provider network. So a network of companies that all kind of offer support services to us as athletes that help us to better manage what Deb was talking about, that sphere of influence. And so I look at it like we all have a heat map, a place where we resonate, whether that's in our hometown, our collegiate cities where we play ball, or the professional places, cities that we played. And unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me, I guess, I played in 9 different cities. multiple countries. So I have a pretty big sphere of influence. And when I started to tap back into that network, it really worked out so great that I got so much overwhelming support from those businesses wanting to work together to collectively leverage our influence, either as an athlete or as a business, to better impact our communities. So that's kind of the crux of what it is that we do at ELOS.
You mentioned the networks or the people, or even the moments where you know what you want to do, you just don't necessarily know how. Who were some of the people specifically that you feel like helped you along the way in creating these businesses?
So, I mean, first and foremost, let me just shout out Tracy. And I'm not doing this just because she's on the call, but because TPI, I really love the model. I love what they're able to do collectively, leveraging all of the athletes, our economic power, our collective influence, also teaching athletes how to be better entrepreneurs. And as she said, really making it a team sport. There's another group called the Smalley Institute. They're super impactful in terms of helping save marriages. Our professional athletes have a 70% divorce rate across all sports, and that to me is super tragic, because it really erodes not only your finances, but it just, from a mental health and wellness perspective, is something that just greatly just erodes your confidence and just breaks down a lot of family units. And then there's the tech aspect has been something that we've had to truly rely upon. And Peter Drucker said you can't grow what you can't measure. So Live 5 is one of our tech partners. They graduated from Techstars. Many of the NBA and NFL stadiums and teams utilize their chat bots, and it's just an awesome technology that we've been able to put in play to help our athletes better engage their sphere of influence.
Yeah, it's tremendous. And we all know how important it is to have people who have either been there before or willing to help show you, different aspects of things that you don't know. Devin, for you, who were the people that you felt like were instrumental in giving you some help and in showing you the way in some regards to creating your businesses?
There was a class I took advantage. Our Players Association, we used to set up at the top schools at Harvard. I took the one at Stanford School of Business with George Foster. And every day for the full week, he would have someone different come in, that started some big tech company. He would have guys come in. One day we did all franchising. One day they had someone come in, they did all real estate. The next day they had business owners come in. And so all of those different things, each day was like a workshop from 8 in the morning to like 10 at night. And we're just in there. And so the students that were helping were like, you guys really don't understand. Like, all the students at Stanford School of Business want to get in George Foster's class, and you guys have access to him, his emails, he'll look over your deals with you. So that was kind of a starting point. And then once I got here in Minneapolis, there's a guy, Bill Beard, he has like movie theaters and libraries and all kinds of senior homes and whatnot. So I got with him and he said, well, I'll teach you, why don't we partner on a deal? So he kind of took me through steps. And then that's when he gave me the idea of that's when he kind of pointed out the branding. Well, he's a large developer, well-known, has businesses all over the place. And in Minneapolis, it's kind of political. He can't even get a return call. And he's looking through my emails and he's saying, they're returning your emails, they're calling your cell phone, they're returning you. And you're getting more of a response as you being a mentee from me, and they're responding to you. And so that's kind of when I said, well, we have something going here. And that's when I started using my brand even more, but also you still have to do the work. You can get in the door with your brand, but you still have to do the work and follow through and be credible and do what you say you're going to do. So
listening to you guys, you did the work and you were putting in the work and you did the research. And again, I can't say enough just how impressed, because I feel like you were so forward thinking throughout the course of your playing career of still understanding maybe the next steps after you would be done. However, if you look back, and Mo, I'm going to start with you, but Devin, I'm curious of this from your end as well. What do you wish you had done more of during your playing days that you feel like would have benefited you post-playing career as you started your business ventures?
Wow, that's a great question. And for me, there's so many things that I look back upon. They always say, you never want to get to the point in your career where you say, man, I wish I would have done, then what I know now and all those different things. But, reflecting back upon it, I really wish I would have better engage the teammates that I had on those many different teams that I spoke about, and just kind of been more assertive as a leader during that time to really leverage our collective influence, especially financially. Now I'm doing that post-career. And obviously, a lot of people say it's like herding cats, and people are at different phases of their careers now, because many of the players, as I've mentioned, they've endured hardships, whether that's financial, whether that's injuries, or just divorces, or just challenges. And I've seen so many players, lose opportunities. As Dev said, they didn't follow up on opportunities that they had because they didn't know how, or many players have misappropriated funds or have been taken advantage of. I think there was a stat that said over the past 15 years, players have been defrauded out of more than $500 million, literally.
Wow.
From financial advisors. These are credited people that we trusted. And so for me, I really wish that I would have, and of course, I was the VP of the Players Association, and I look back on all the things that I now know, how much more equipped I am, the team that I have around me, how much they empower me, and we, iron sharpens iron. I wish that I had some of this knowledge, I guess you would say, back then, to be able to better leverage the positioning that I had while I was playing for those 11 years.
Devean, what about you? What would you have done more of, or wish you had done more of during your playing days?
I think I wish I would have started earlier. It took like me sitting on the market and, for those months over the whole summer and training camp close to starting up, for me to kind of say, okay, what's life after basketball? But there's more than enough time. And when I talk to young guys now, even if they're first, second, third year, you have time. I mean, it's not going to impact, you getting in the way. It's not going to take over your life. It's not going to put, you still can have that second, basketball or whatever your sport is, be first. But we're done with practice at noon, 1 o'clock. We got the rest of the day. We can work on life after basketball a few hours. Like, we're not all, there's things that guys are doing in that free time before they have to go to the game or before they have to go to practice the next day. So I think I would have started a little bit earlier. That would have been, I would have, once I kind of got doing what I was doing, when I finished, I was like, man, I wish I would have got going a few years earlier. But that was one of the things I wish I would have started earlier.
Devean, real quick to circle back, I know you had mentioned that you had kind of looked at a variety of different areas, or had some experience opportunities. But what was it about real estate and properties that piqued your interest so much that you said that this is it? Like, this is the thing that is for me.
Well, we all have our things, when we have some extra finances. Some guys like jewelry, some guys are into cars. I was always into housing. Like, I was always into my home. Like, when people come in, like, I'd look through Architectural Digest magazines and I change another bathroom. Like, that was like that was my thing. Like, some guys will have the newest car coming up, or somebody have the more jewelry. That was me. Like, I was always into the home, or redoing my kitchen, or finding another house. So that was kind of my interest already. And then really it was just the freedom. So when I went looking to coaching and going in the front office, I was like, I just want to enjoy the game when I'm done. Like, this is a lot of work. Like, it's more work. Like, I'm thinking I'm there, a lot when I'm playing, but like, when you're done, you're there longer. You're there before the players, you're there after. So I was like, nah, that's not really it. And then I got into the franchising, and it was just too much work, too many employees, too much stuff, too much scam, too much overhead. So it was like, the margins weren't good. And so that was kind of it. And then the acting thing, got on set, watched some stuff, watched movies being filmed, watched that, tried doing some of that. I was like, this ain't going to happen for me. So I was like, this is what it is. And I think the main thing was, it was a great way to make money when I'm done. And it gave me freedom and flexibility, where I can still be moving. Cause I'm like a busybody. Like, I can't just sit in the office. I just can't sit in one place. I gotta be moving around. So I think that was it for me.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous. Mo, for you, what's your favorite part about helping entrepreneurs jumpstart their own businesses?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, and it's even for me, it goes even beyond entrepreneurs. It's really just offering, what we do is we offer brand management services to athletes. And brand management is something that, again, most people don't quite understand. They think it's just a buzzword. But the brand management, it starts with the management, the contract negotiation, the sponsorship procurement, all this normal things that most agencies offer. But then what we focus is on helping them maximize their fullest potential, which is on the branded, is what I call them, branded content, branded products, branded events, and things of that nature. What I'm most passionate about is that that's something that we naturally do. Most athletes, unfortunately, and influencers, they don't know how to really monetize their brand separate and apart from the leagues. Like, meaning that once Devin and I stopped playing for the Lakers or the Mavericks or whomever, and we stopped getting paid by those teams, once we step away from our sport, most athletes don't know who they are. They don't know how to then, they get the keys back to their image, naming, licensing, everything. They don't know how to then go leverage that in a different model. And to me, that wasn't okay. So being able to now empower athletes, entrepreneurs, and helping them to really understand who they are, how to maximize their brand, and how to truly, monetize their talent stack is something that makes me really, really excited, because it's something that I was doing before I was ever getting paid to do it.
Yeah, in that same vein, and I know you guys have touched on this a little bit, but start with you. How did being a pro athlete, and you already taught, I mean, you can't even, I think most people don't even understand all that's asked of you and everything that goes along with it. But what are the things, whether it was being a pro athlete, whether it's what you learned, whether it's the business of the NBA, what was it about your time and your experience as a pro athlete that has and continues to help you with your off-court ventures?
I would say for sure it's the just the perseverance, the work ethic, the learning to be coachable. As I said earlier, as athletes, we're used to being coachable or being coached. We're used to working in team environments. We're used to having to work hard and facing adversity as well. So all of those aspects are things that you're going to experience in just in life in general. So for me, I think those all core components. And then you leverage that with the fact of also having to learn how to steward success. As a professional athlete, you are very much in the spotlight, whether you're a very, a top player or someone who has, just dipped their toe in the league. If I went out and did something crazy tomorrow, you probably see on ESPN, former LA Laker Mo Evans did whatever. So you have to learn how to steward success. And that's something that I think has really helped me.
Devin, what about for you? What did you pull from? And I'm sure there's an endless list of things, but what stands out most of what you feel like your experience as a professional athlete now you carry with you?
Well, really just building your team of your employees and people that you work with in understanding your roles. Like when we have some success at a high level in professional sports, you understand roles. Everyone has the job to do. No one's really more important than the other. We're trying to get the same goal. And so I'm able to kind of do that with the team of people that I have that are working for me, is that when you bring that team environment into the play, then that everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to do. Hey, you're supposed to rebound. You're supposed to play. You're supposed to shoot. You're supposed to play defense. Everyone knows that, and bringing that in, you can succeed. And I think I brought that. And also really just, the teaching that Phil Jackson was able to teach. And that was like a blessing. And, it was a crazy blessing to see how he dealt with each individual person different. He didn't deal with everybody the same way. And I was kind of the guy that he picked on all the time. And it got to a point where I was about to lose it. And he finally called me into the room and told me what he was doing. He's like, I'm just talking to someone else through you. I know you didn't do it wrong, because he would pick on me and film like every day. And I'm like, what is it with this dude for years? And he finally told me, I can't tell the same thing. He made the same mistake you made, but I'm just going to tell him through you. And so, because I could take it, but I take those same philosophies in working with people and their personalities and whatnot. And then that's what I brought from basketball to the business world.
That's brilliant. That's how you get the best out of people. That's how you get the best out of the team. Those are stories and experiences, I'm sure, that are absolutely invaluable. Mo, if you were talking, I would say either to your younger self, but more specifically to players now, or even to a player that maybe just recently retired, that's trying to maybe get into a different business venture, or go to an industry that they're not real familiar with, what type of advice would you give them?
I would just, even again, my younger self or others, is just to exercise, truly exercise patience and understanding the value of doing due diligence, not feeling succumbing to pressure. Obviously, when you're an athlete, or when you or in business, whatever it is, it's like a lot of times people, they allow people to impose their will upon us, and you can find yourself sometimes doing deals or doing things that you don't quite understand. And as athletes, a lot of times I've also witnessed and been in very many rooms where someone doesn't quite understand something. They're afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to allow themselves to be exposed for what it is they don't know. That's something for me, is that I'm always willing to learn, and understanding the value of learning and surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, and not, setting your ego aside. So just the willingness to be coached, the willingness to also be patient, and to truly make intentional moves, so that you don't have to go back and do things a second time, the wrong way, learning from your own mistakes, so to speak.
That's tremendous advice. Devin, for you, if you had an athlete come to you and say that they were interested in starting their own business, or they wanted to shift and get into a different industry, what's the piece of advice that you would start them off with?
Exactly what Mo just said: due diligence and verify the information. Because everyone that gets pitched a business or wants to start a business, they see something that the numbers may not be real. Anybody can make an Excel spreadsheet look good, but are they real numbers? And do your due diligence and be patient, because most people come in, they want to get it going now, they want to turn it overnight. They need to get in the field and really understand it. They need to ask questions. Is somebody else do this before? Does someone else have a company I can talk to? Are these numbers real numbers? Hey, you have this company, they're projected to make this much money. Is that real? Well, I still haven't made that much money, or whatever the case may be. But I think those are the things, is like the due diligence and being patient and understanding and verifying your information.
You both have talked about asking questions, which is so important, because we've got a number of participants on here that have had the pleasure of getting to listen to you and hear, but we want participants, you, to engage as well. So put in your questions. We got the Q&A box. I've got a few more for both you, Devin and Mo, but we want to hear the questions that you have for Devin and Mo, and every question is a good question, and you guys are filled with so much insight and education and experience that please, everyone, put your questions in the Q&A box and ask away, because we know Devin and Mo continue to just drop some great nuggets of knowledge with us. I want to know, and this is something that I always think can be a tough question, because there's probably too many to pinpoint, and you can talk about off the court, you can talk about on the court. If you want to give us one of each, you could do that. But Mo, I'm going to start with you. What accomplishment are you most proud of?
Well, first and foremost, let me just say you're doing an excellent job as a moderator. I really appreciate the questions.
Mo's just buttering me up here.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's great. But for me, I think the biggest accomplishment for me is honestly just transitioning out of the NBA. It may sound subtle, but for me, that, and I've seen so many individuals. I used to think, oh, it was going undrafted and playing 11 years, but to me, transitioning out of professional sports and really finding a niche and finding a second career that I could thrive in and feel, totally at home in, has been, I've seen so many players just unfortunately not able to do that. And it took me a good 5 or 6 years to really find my niche. And, and that was it was tremendously difficult. Not to me is worth the sanity, the clarity that I have is worth more than any Player of the Year award, any playoff berth, any other individual accolade that I've accomplished.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Devin, what about for you? And you've won three NBA titles. So this may be tough to have an on the court and off the court, but what accomplishment are you most proud of?
I mean, I think on the court, I think it's just the whole 11-year career, and then me getting to the point where I was able to be financial savvy enough to quit when I wanted to quit. So I tried my 12th year and I'm like, I can't do it. This is a young man's game. I can't go through another training camp. So it was peaceful because I knew I couldn't do it. Sometimes when people are kicked out, when they still feel like they have something left in the tank, it's a little bit, it's tougher. But when you know, like, I just can't run anymore, like, so you don't have any, you know, I mean, I can run, but I just can't do that anymore, that grind. You're at peace. But really, off the court was the first affordable housing project I did. The other projects I've done, they were market rate and they were fairly simple. But the difficulty and the understanding and the learning and the doubt I got from even some people in the city and even some of the other developers, because it's a competition thing. But once I turned it to a competition thing, then that's when it kind of really clicked for me, is that putting that together was so difficult. It was so hard. It took so much brain power, and it took so many people to come together. It took so many people from the city, from the state, everyone that came together, and finally accomplishing that. At the groundbreaking ceremony, I kind of, I gave everyone kind of a name: Kobe, Shaq, my large investors that put in more. And then I also had my role players that maybe put in 50,000, the people that just donated time. So I gave everybody a name of our championship teams that showed them that this is what it felt like to me, is winning the championship, because we had so many people involved, but everybody's job was so important in doing something like that. So that was probably off the court one of my biggest moments.
What were you both have mentioned in talking about the transition, or more using the word patience, but when you look at it, the different challenges that you certainly not only have faced as a player, but also just in starting your own businesses and in some of these off-court ventures, Mo, what did you tell yourself? How did you handle, what were you able to do in those moments of question or uncertainty, or not being sure what the path looked like? How did you overcome that?
Wow. I mean, for me, my transition wasn't seemingly as smooth as what I'm hearing for Dev. And as I said, I lost money. I thought, I vetted deals, and as he mentioned, projections can look really well. Certain times facts can lie. There were certain companies that were doing really well. I would put money into the company. I would join the company, and then all of a sudden it would fall apart right before my eyes. I'm like, oh man, this is, $500,000 going down the drain. And you don't, and especially post career, you can't go back out there and make these large sums of money as quickly as we did then. So, and there were times when I really felt like, man, I can't let this defeat me. But it was like, it was challenging, to say the least. But, through again, every time that I would kind of hit those downturns and feel like I would question my path, my trajectory, my transition, and that's when something great would sprout out. And that's when I realized that, a lot of times success in true sustainability, it always comes in seed form, meaning that you have to cultivate it, you have to work at it, you have to really flower it. And some people don't realize, like, for example, an apple tree, it bears fruit every other year. So if you walk away, some people walk away from things they've cultivated because they think it's not bearing any fruit, and yet someone else reaps the benefits. So for me, it was just truly having to work the process and stay the course, and again, learn from my mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes, and not just my own. But those are the things that really blessed me to kind of get it, I guess you could say.
Devin, what about for you? Because I'm sure, sometimes those from the outside, or those who aren't in the grind every single day with you, just look at what you've accomplished and see all the success, and look at not necessarily how the journey is that got you to your destination, but just the things and the success you're finding now. In those challenges, in those moments of question, what was it that you turned to, or what were the different attributes or different ways in which you helped to really overcome some of those challenging times?
Well, I've relied on my team and people that I've asked questions. And I think that's the biggest thing that I always preach to guys, is like, ask questions. And going back to the finances, I was always one asking my financial advisors, what does this mean? I don't know what that means. I never really felt bad about not knowing something. I've always asked the question, what does that mean? Can you explain that to me? And then that kind of puts them on alert. Hey, this guy is watching things and he's asking, and I have other people looking at stuff. So I think asking the question was the biggest thing that kind of helped me in tough times, is I was always not afraid to say, I don't know something, or I'm stuck, And, some people, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, but no, I was never really one to do that too much. I was always one to say, hey man, I'm stuck. I don't know what this is, or what do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying. I was always that guy. That helped me. And when you're honest and when you get stuck, sometimes, and you ask a question, people will help you or you'll get through it. But if you don't, people assume you know it or you got it under control or you're okay, and you miss out your help or your blessing. So if you be honest and ask a question, you can probably move through everything.
That's beautiful. Beautiful answers from both of you. We're going to get to some of the questions that the participants are asking now, and we've got some great ones. Let's start with, and Mo, I'll start with you on this. What are your long-term goals? What's going to happen next? What projects are coming up? And just what do you foresee as the next few steps and what it is that you're doing?
Sure. No, that's a great question. And for me, it's the ultimate goal is always legacy success is what I say, because most businesses rarely transition successfully from one generation to the next. So I want to be able to definitely leave, something significant to my family, to my children. But in terms of immediate projects, we're continuing to scale our company. There's a few more immediate investments that we're engaged in right now that we're really excited about, that we really believe could kind of close off, I guess you could say, that 360 loop that helps us to better service our clientele and support the athletes and influencers that we work with. And obviously also we work with businesses as well. So I'm really excited and hopeful that we can continue to just strengthen that network and hone some of our services to better help service our audience.
That's great. That's great. Devin, for you, what's the long-term goals, the future? What are the next steps for you?
Really, I'm just branching out. I'm out in many different states now in underserved communities, this building blocks model that I've started. And that's really what I'm looking to do, is really, the legacy and getting, and most of these other partnerships in other states are with other athletes that want to do the same model of thing that I'm doing in Minneapolis. And I'm getting with guys to not be so much transactional as we have been in the past. And when I say that, I mean the buildings and stuff in the model that I'm created, there's providing jobs, there's providing housing. I'm creating opportunities for people in these underserved communities, as opposed to what we're used to doing. We're used to handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving or giving a bike away on Christmas, and we're gone and it's done. What are we going to do that it's not just a transaction? We still need those things, but let's focus on some of the things that will be here. When I'm gone, when, years to come, this will still be there. This will still be a pillar in the community. So focusing on those things, that's my goal.
It's so important, and that's so well said. And this is kind of this is a great question, Wendy. Thank you. When athletes such as yourselves get bombarded by so many with their handouts, how does an entrepreneur with a serious opportunity connect with current or former athletes, especially when the opportunity supports kids and sports? And whoever wants to start with this, Devin or Mo, I'm curious to hear from you, because I think just understanding how much gets asked of you by others, by the outside, by really legitimate charities or philanthropic efforts, also from families, from friends, those from your community. How do you determine that, and how do you kind of evaluate the things in which you're willing and able to invest your time and invest yourself in?
To me, I look at, if it's in line with something I'm doing first. We may get a stack of proposals or things or business ventures or whatever, but if it's not in the same line of things or what I've been doing, where I'm trying to go, or if it's something that I don't understand, because sometimes people just want to say, hey, I want you to start this new car tire business or whatever. I don't know anything about that, but so if it's in line to what I'm doing, I'll look at it and say, oh, well, this, I could, use it for the kids. The kids could help here. They could help them. It could be mutually beneficial. So that's kind of the first thing is it in line with what we're doing? And then two, I always look at, am I coming in? Is it a partnership? Am I funding it? And then how much is done? Because like Mo said, most people are taking our money, our investment, and then they're, paying payroll and starting all this other stuff. No, I need to invest in whatever the business is. if it's something not into the back office work. I need to invest in scaling up or whatever it is. So that's what I look at.
Mo, what about for you?
Those are great. And just to echo some of the things that Dev said, I mean, for one, just to encourage the entrepreneur, I believe Wendy asked a question, maybe for her, I think there's so many awesome mediums right now that exist for entrepreneurs, like LinkedIn, for example, being able to connect with individuals who are looking for opportunities. There's accelerators that are out there now that you can enter into all kinds of competitions and, you know, get the support or get the $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever they're offering to startups and young companies. But similar to what Dev said, I mean, at this point in my career, in my life, I'm very intentional about my focus in terms of, I realize, just like Dev is real estate for him, for me, it's really just sports businesses and businesses that can either support the athlete network that we have, or businesses that are kind of already in revenue that are complementary to our business model. Like I've spent a lot of money, I guess, entertaining opportunities outside of that niche, and it didn't always work out so well for me. So that's kind of my focus.
One more point to that,
Oh,
Sarah, to
please,
add,
Devin.
is that what I do for myself, because I have larger projects that I look at for investors and whatnot, but I make sure when I come, I have everything ready. All I need is funding. Like I don't need funding for a lawyer to set up my LLC, to set up my spreadsheets, to do my accounting. I need money for the product. So for young people to try to have everything ready to go, all they need to do is have capital to take the business off, not necessarily investing in, because that's more so like a loan. You know, you need to go to a bank to get some help with your accounting and your back office and your branding and your website help. That shouldn't be on there. You should have strict money just ready for your product or your brand or whatever you want to do, and all you need is the money to take off. So that's kind of what I do. I put it on the T-ball. All I need is your funds.
A question from Tiffany, which I'm curious in you saying that, Devin, where you both can respond to this. Tiffany says you're both smart businessmen, as we can tell, and there has been an increase in social entrepreneurship lately. Have you invested in any social ventures? And if so, what type of return on investment do you typically expect?
I haven't, but what I do in my social impact investing is I provide commercial space for local businesses where they can use those spaces for their goods or services that they sell. We're working on a community kitchen where local entrepreneurs they do cooking. One of the biggest thing is that people know how to cook or bake in underserved areas. They make pies, they have famous recipes, but they can't go rent a restaurant or start a restaurant or whatnot. So if we have a commercial community kitchen, they can come in and rent a full commercial kitchen for $12 or $13 an hour and have goods to sell. They can start their catering businesses. So those are the type of investments that I make to give entrepreneurs the tools to go, not necessarily in the direct company. I have not yet at this point.
Yeah, I would say the same thing for me. I haven't invested in anything that I think is that just has a purely social impact. However, I have donated time and money into community outreach without the expectation, I guess you would say, of a return on investment in the traditional sense. So, for example, we partner with Precinct 1, which is Houston Police Department here, and we also do we get a ton of the Highway Patrolman Sheriff's Department, and we've done this is 6th annual basketball tournament, and we also give the kids immunization shots. We give them back to school supplies. We give them haircuts, hairstyles for the women, all kinds of different things of that nature. And but then we also, during COVID, unfortunately, a lot of the schools weren't able to they weren't able to graduate. There's a lot of graduates that didn't have a ceremony. They didn't have truncated seasons and things of that nature. So we partnered here at our restaurant, and we gave away financial scholarships. We also gave away obviously money food, excuse me. And then we gave them a actual graduation here, some virtual and some here in person. We observed the CDC and social distancing guidelines and things of that nature, but it was really cool to be able to give these students something that they weren't able to have. So those are things that we try to do to give back.
I know we're getting close to the top of the hour in our time, and you guys have done such an incredible job, and we've got so many great questions that I know we won't be able to get to all of them. But Devean and Mo, are you okay for just a few more questions before we let you guys go? Mo, I know you're still at work.
I'm okay. I'm sorry. No, we're just here, and sorry the background.
No, don't be sorry. I just want to make sure. I know we're gonna fit in a few more before we thank everyone and let you go. And again, to all those who are participating, we appreciate all the great questions you sent in, and I wish we can get them all in. But I am looking at an early one we got. Have either of you done anything to build wealth for your kids? Mo, I know you talked about the importance of family, and Devean, as you as well, or help educate kids on investing and your philanthropic efforts and in helping them to maybe better understand financial literacy and wealth.
Kids in the program. Personal.
Yes.
Have I?
Yes.
You said kids. Repeat the question again.
It's have either of you done anything to build wealth for your kids? I'm not sure if it's your own children or kids in the program. But I'm going to ask you just in general, kids, and not even just your own kids, but whether kids in the program or just kids, but the youth, to help better educate them on investing and your philanthropic values.
Well, both. Yes, obviously with my kids, everything is in my kid's name, but personally, and so, but with kids, I've started off by slowly working with them on understanding the value of things and understanding working for money and money working for you. Those are the basic things, is just getting kids to understand, things that you buy that pay you and things that you buy that take money away from you. That's the most simplest thing that you can start teaching kids as assets and liabilities. What is it? And just going over that. And so we talk about that. I talk about that with the young kids and whatnot, and what I'm doing. And they ask questions too about, hey, this building. And I said, this is an asset. I'm not here every day, and so they're getting it. But those are the type of conversations that we need to have with our youth, that most of the time that we're not taught that. And when me and Mo came into money, we never heard these conversations, and it wasn't anything. Our parents worked all the time, but these weren't conversations we had at our dinner table.
Yeah. Mo, what about for you?
Similar to Dev, I'm very cognitive to be mindful to teach my children the value of a dollar. For example, I taught JA. I really loved after school. The main thing was teaching each kid. They got like a different business within a city and a community, and it was kind of cool. But all of them had to give examples of how to save, spend, earn, or donate money. And so I took the same concepts home with the kids and make sure that they can articulate that. And it doesn't matter what business it is, it doesn't matter how, but it's like they're cognitive of it. And then of course, you make investments in their name, and of course the things that Dev and I are doing for ourselves, we make sure to pass it on to our children. But I really want them to have the understanding of how to to build a business or to do things that they're passionate about. My kids even have gone out and done the lemonade stand and sell snacks and cool little things like that. And it's kind of cool because they want to do it. They make the signs, they paint it. And I always try to, as I told you, I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship. So to see that in my children is something that really makes me smile.
Amazing. All right, Devean, I'm going to start with you. There is a question from June Archer, and she asks, what life advice were you given by Kobe Bryant that you share now with others?
Just the passion and then the grit. And to be honest, Kobe is the reason why I even got signed again, after my third year. He was in there pretty much negotiating my contract for me, calling me and saying, hey, did they get the numbers right? And that's one of the reasons why we were working on our contract at 1201, because he just liked, my attitude. I didn't say anything. I didn't talk. I just was seen, not heard. But it was really those lessons and the work ethic. You could not beat him to the gym. I mean, he lived out in Orange County, and you get there at 7, like, oh, he's never going to be here. He's dripping wet, about to leave. And so those are, just that mentality that he had. It's like everyone's talking about it, but I was just so blessed for all those years to just be able to see it personally. And so that was one of the things that he just taught me, and to grit it out. And even when I was getting hazed and I knew he was my guy, and he would just look at me like, nope, I'm not saving you. Tough it out. And I'm like, help me. And he's like, nope, tough it out. So that was one of the things.
Mo, what about you? What advice were you given by the late Kobe Bryant that you still share?
So for me, again, there were so many. I would just compute it to more lessons. I guess you would say life lessons and things that I learned under his watch. And I would say that the biggest thing is kind of similar to what Dev said, but I guess it just echoes how impactful he was. But just in terms of his industry knowledge, like his like how much of an expert he was in terms of what he knew about and what he invested into the game. Like I loved just how he would run our shoot arounds, and what I mean is shoot around for most people is what takes place the day of the game when the coaches normally go over the plays and tell us what strategies we're going to use. But he would take the lead because he was so knowledgeable. And the last thing that I realized from him was just that the triangle offense. Why most people don't understand why great players play in the triangle and why Coach Jackson even utilized and adopted it. It's because each spot is interchangeable, meaning that every action is what causes the next action. So if the ball goes left and we all do something else, if it goes right, et cetera, et cetera. Well, those great players, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordans, were so intelligent. They had such great basketball acumen, high basketball IQ, that they were able to manipulate each and every spot. So being on the court with Kobe and watching him getting 65 points and 81 points and things of that nature was because he was able to manipulate each spot and find out how to get the best advantage. And that was something that just always impressed me to no end, that he knew the game that well.
I'll tell a quick funny story about Kobe. Is he he knows where he's so smart that he knew where all the shots were coming from. And so, like, if it's my spot, if I'm in the corner, or if I'm at the top of the key, or if I'm at the pinch post, and he notices like all the shots are coming from there, and he get that, hey, George, hey, switch with me, switch. He wants to switch and get that. And so he then you turn your head and where all the shots are at. Now he's in there. You're like, why are you over here now? So he did have that knowledge of the game, but I'm missing my guy.
Oh, we could probably talk for hours and hours about stories. Bless his soul. One final question for both of you. As you have found yourself with so much success, both professionally as basketball players, but also now in your post-playing career. But as a child, and this is an anonymous attendee asked this question, but this is a great one. I'm curious to find out. As a child, Mo, we'll start with you. What did you see yourself doing in the future if you did not become an NBA player?
So again, as a child, I always saw myself owning a business. And it's funny because I used to say to myself, I'm a businessman playing basketball even when I was in the NBA, and I didn't know what business I was going to have. And I just remember always printing out business cards and things of that nature. And I think maybe that's why I was able to make it in basketball, to be honest with you, because I looked at, the numbers. I'm always been a numbers guy. So I always said, man, if I can just make $1 million playing basketball, I can use this to start these businesses and do all this great stuff. And, my teachers used to say, well, what is your plan B? And I'm saying, like, this is a holistic plan. Like, I'm going to play basketball. I'm going to start these businesses and do all these different things. And so it worked out. So I guess the power of, persuasion or whatever it is, just persistence. So, but that's what I've always wanted to do, is be an entrepreneur.
Well, and you're doing it. You did it all. Devean, what about you? As a child, if you weren't going to become an NBA player, what did you want to be?
And I didn't know until I got, a little bit older, but I mean, as a child, I wanted to be a businessman. My dad had a friend that would always come in the community. His name was Larry. I didn't know he was a lawyer, but he was always dressed. He drive his Mercedes there. He was sitting there because my dad was kind of like the hangout. And I was just always wanting, like, man, I want his job. I want to do that. You know, I didn't know he was a lawyer. I was like, I want to be a businessman like that, because it was just something about how he was dressed. He always, you know, how he spoke, you know, how he was smart, how he still kind of came in and hung out with people in the community and stuff. I was like, that's what I want to be. And then, like, I was always wanting to be Mr. Larry. And I'm like, then I found out he's a lawyer. I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. I just want to be a businessman and dress like that. So that was who I wanted to be, and that's who I wanted to look up to as I got older. And I started growing and started playing basketball.
Now you got a lot of people want to be a Mr. Devean, and young kids out here looking up to you two. We cannot thank you enough for your passion and for your inspiration and for sharing your wisdom and your light. It has been such a pleasure. So thank you to both of you for your time, and not only for your time tonight, but just everything that you do to help make this world and make everything a little bit better and a better place. So thanks to both of you.
Thank you all for everybody who made it possible. We really appreciate it. And Dev, it was great to see you and wish you continued success. Sarah, thank you so much. You did an excellent job, as I said, and everybody who made it possible. We want to thank you all for your time. You guys have a great evening.
Appreciate it.
All right, Alicia, Tracy, and Michelle, we're going to send it back to you to close things out.
Yes, what a great conversation. Thank you, Sarah, Devean, and Mo. We really enjoyed that and appreciate you all sharing your time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you to the entire team at the Players Impact, and also to everyone at Champions for Philanthropy, especially Aggie Dent, for all of your assistance in putting together this event. And thank you to all of the viewers who tuned in this evening. I encourage you to follow us on social media at Champions for Philanthropy to keep up with our work and find out about our future events. And now, Tracy, I'll let you have closing remarks.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Mo, Devean, Sarah, thank you so much. What an amazing conversation to be a part of and to watch. Mo and Devean, taking charge of your own journey. If that's the message we can take away from this, you were self-empowered to figure your own journeys out. And I think that you're amazing role models for our community. Devean, please let us know what the Players Impact can ever do for you or any one of your various companies or philanthropic efforts. We're here for you. Mo can let you know more. And thank you again.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a great night. We look forward to staying in touch.
Okay.
All right. You guys be good.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great evening.